Chapter 12. Wimps are more than meets the eye. Wimps? Zeddy asked. He was confused. He thought that wimps were weak people. He had never heard of wimps in space. He also knew his father would have never let him call someone else a wimp, not even an alien. Wimps? Zeddy's mother also asked. How do you know that there are wimps in space? Is Zamira populated by wimps? I know what you're thinking, Prophecy began. I'm not talking about a lack of physical strength or a lack of courage. I'm referring to weakly interacting massive particles. What are those? Zeddy asked. The professor scratched his shock of gray hair. He didn't quite know how to explain scientific theory to a young boy. For centuries, scientists have been trying to explain how the universe keeps expanding and why the universe doesn't simply stop expanding beyond the mass of the original star which exploded in the Big Bang Theory. We had no real explanation for where the original matter came from that keeps pushing the universe further and further from its point of origin. Finally, we realized that there must be some reason for this discrepancy. That is where WIMPs come in. WIMPs are what scientists believe are the basic units of dark matter. Dark matter is an invisible substance that makes up for the missing weight and mass in the universe. Weakly interacting massive particles are thought to be invisible, electromagnetically neutral particles that rarely interact with matter and have their own gravitational forces. It is the secret that your father was searching for. It is what we both thought that we would discover through Zamira because it constantly changes shape and size, and its weight is always fluctuating. Proving the existence of dark matter would be the biggest scientific breakthrough of this century, Prophecy explained as best he could. So, did my father go to Zamira? Zeddy asked. He tried, said Prophecy sadly. We have spent our time together over the last 2 years in the Nevada province. We were searching for a way to get to Zamira, since shuttling there would be impossible even for a robot. There is no way to carry enough fuel. I believed that we would be able to open a portal between our world and Zamira if we harnessed enough power to create a controlled vortex whose trajectory was aimed towards Zamira. How can that be possible? Zeddy and Zadie asked simultaneously. Oh, yes, let me see. If we used power to open a door in the time-space continuum, then we could travel to Zamira, Prophecy tried to explain. So, you wanted to travel across space and time without having to use a spaceship? Zeddy asked. Why, yes, my boy. Your scientific mind is wonderful. I'm afraid I don't talk to many people anymore. It's hard to remember that other people aren't thinking about the same things I'm thinking about, Prophecy said solemnly. So you see, your father and I built a machine to do just that. We built a giant reactor and a spinning mechanism that would imitate the creation of a vortex. But we had no one to go once the machine was up and running. The IG demanded that one of us go. Before I could volunteer, your father stepped into the vortex. As he entered the vortex, the nuclear reactor began to melt. As much as we studied dark matter, we overlooked the importance of dark energy in our calculations. Dark energy is supposedly more powerful than any other force in the universe. Scientists believe it may be more prevalent than dark matter. In fact, it may be the actual force that created the universe as we know it. All our planning was worthless. Our equipment began to explode and catch fire. I ran upstairs and grabbed your father, pulling him out of the vortex before he was trapped wherever it opened. We barely escaped. The facility exploded and we were lucky to have survived. Your father was exhausted and I was afraid he may have been exposed to some sort of radiation. I put him on the first tram to the hospital, but apparently he went home to both of you. I am sorry that I don't know more to tell you. I would like to tell you that maybe the radiation made him suffer from temporary memory loss, or maybe he needed time to think it all through. Unfortunately, I believe that the IG must have picked him up because our experiment was a failure. That is why I think they will come here next, said Prophecy, with tears beginning to form in his eyes. Zeddy's head was reeling from the new information. He looked to Zadie for some kind of answer, but she only stared blankly at both the professor and her son. Then Zeddy remembered his Zutterfly safely put away in his backpack. It had told him that it was a dark matter bug. Could Zmali be the connection to help Professor Zenith realize the truth? I've something I want to show you, Zeddy said, slipping off his backpack. I have something that certainly is related to this dark matter that you're talking about. You'll have to turn out the lights, though. The professor went to the switch on the wall as Zeddy opened his backpack. In the dimness of the room, the little Zutterfly began to glow deep inside the backpack. Suddenly, the bug made its way from the backpack. Prophecy looked on in disbelief. What is that? the professor asked. This is Smalley, Zeddy said. He is a Zutterfly, a dark matter bug from the planet Zamira. Smalley began to glow in the most beautiful shade of violet that they had ever seen. It swooped and swirled around the room, leaving trails of purplish light behind it as it moved. That is amazing, the professor exclaimed. Never in my wildest dreams have I ever imagined a creature such as this. It is quite beautiful, isn't it? Zadie said. It is an exquisite creature, Prophecy continued. And you said that it was from the planet Zamira. Yes, last night it helped me dream of Zamira, the most beautiful place I've ever seen. Then we talked after he woke me up. He said that Dad brought him back in his pocket from Zamira. Unfortunately, Smalley was scared of us and had to observe us for a while to learn to trust us, Zeddy said. He spoke to you, in English. And he said your father brought him back from Zamira, Prophecy asked, scratching his head. Yes, he said Dad brought him back from Zamira, and yes, he speaks English. The Z-King of Zamira taught him English in another language, but he said Zamarian is difficult for outsiders to understand, because everything starts with the letter Z. All these years the professor had searched for dark matter. He had discovered Zamira and studied it with Zane, hoping to find the answers to the dilemma that had puzzled scientists for years, and they had actually done it. He and Zane had created a portal between Earth and Zamira. If only Zane were here to share in this moment, this magically transparent Zutterfly was the answer to all his life's work. Maybe.